NASA. G'day Dark Realmers, it's horror author and illustrator Michael J. Elliott here with you, and today we're going to be looking at the 1994 movie Puppet Masters. Now that's not to be confused with the Puppet Master, the one with all the little puppets that go around killing and biting and maiming and everything. This is a sci-fi film, and yeah, I know some of you Dark Realmers will go, hey Mike, that's not fair, this is a horror channel. Well, in anything, movies, books, there's always an overlap. Genres aren't always cut and dry, like you can get romantic history, you can get sci-fi romance, so it's never cut and dry. And look, believe me, I wouldn't include this unless there was a little bit of horror in here that would make your skin crawl. And let's face it, sci-fi is the perfect place for horror elements. And if you don't believe me, just remember back to Aliens. Tell me when that alien burst out of John Hurt's chest. That wasn't pure horror. Okay, now some people think that Puppet Masters was basically just another version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but it wasn't, because Invasion of the Body Snatchers was written in 1951 by Robert A Hienlen, and Invasion or Body Snatchers was written by Jack Finney in 1954. So this one came first, Dark Realmers. Now, Robert A Hienlen wrote the book in 1951, but he actually set the story in 2007. And during this time period, America and Russia have gone through a massive war. Now, they've beaten but unbroken, and the world sort of divided into a Russia-China bloc and the America free world bloc. And of course, he's included all sorts of things in his description of the world of that time. We have flying cars and jetpacks and so forth like that, and interstellar travel, and there's even colonies on Mars and Venus, and one of the main characters in the story, Mary, was actually from Venus. Well, with the movie version, the directors and the scriptwriters did away with all the futuristic settings and set it in the present time frame, which this movie was made in 1994. So the plot has kept very much to the basic storyline, but gotten rid of all the sci-fi elements, and that makes it sort of a lot more believable and a lot more relatable. Now, what makes this movie very scary is it's all about that inbuilt fear we all have, Dark Realmers, and we've seen it all in movies before, where something takes us over, where we lose our free will and we're not controlled by our own conscience and our own rationale, but rather something, either demonic or alien, has taken us over. And in this story, these are invaders from another planet or another world, and they're sort of sluggy starlug type things, a cross between a starfish and a sort of slug. And what is really creepy is that these things bury probes into your spinal column, and they travel up to your brain, and basically that's how they control you, and you're no longer you. So that's what makes this film really quite creepy, Dark Realmers, because it's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where you don't know who has been taken over, because they look the same and they act the same. But the difference is, in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the aliens actually had no emotions. They were blank slates, so they were easy to detect. But in this novel and book, the aliens, they don't. They look the same, they act the same, but there are always clues. Now, there's one scene in the movie where one of the characters is a smoker, and while they're in a conference, someone says to him, "Have you given up smoking?" And that's when the alien knows he's been tumbled and makes a dash for it. Now, the main character in this film is played by Donald Sutherland, and this must have been a bit like sort of Going Home or Deja Vu, because he was also in the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Now, he plays an expert from a NASA-type think tank, and his son, played by Will Patton, they're investigating these strange takeovers, because what's happened was some youth who were playing in a small town, in a field somewhere in Iowa, see a UFO crash. Now, it's not a huge UFO because of the size of these things, but when local people come to investigate, the youths knock them out. And that's when you think, hello, this is a bit strange, what's going on? Well, it progresses from there, Dark Realmers. It's very atmospheric, and yeah, it'll have you guessing who's going to be taken over next. Now, the only way to actually know if someone's been taken over by one of the aliens is for the person to remove their shirt, because the aliens attach themselves to the spinal column. And so there's a lot of scenes in this movie where Donald Sutherland or some other character says, will you mind removing your shirt? Now, of course, everyone who's not affected, it's like, you know, the person who's not guilty, they're quite happy to undo their shirt. Even the ladies, yes, but the filmmakers are very, very good like that, because there's no nudity like that. And of course, the person that doesn't automatically makes a bolt for it, because they are the alien. Now, there's one scene in the movie that is really quite creepy, because Donald Sutherland's son in this movie becomes infected with one of the creatures, but they manage to capture the character, John, the son, and they try and communicate with the alien, and they have Donald Sutherland's son strapped up to medical equipment and so forth, and Donald Sutherland, talking directly to the alien, of course, through his son, says, who are you, what do you want, if you don't answer I'll electrocute you. And the alien basically turns around and says, well, yeah, you can do that if you want, but you do that and I'll just stop your son's heart, because the aliens have total control over all our functions. And true to his word, he does do that, but they managed to bring him back. Now, of course, for us all who like, you know, happy endings and so forth, they do manage to actually extract the alien. Now, of course, scientists, as in all good movies, need to find the weaknesses of these invaders, and to do that, they've actually let these parasites cling onto the back of chimpanzees. And this is one of the best scenes in the movie, because it's really creepy, and it's also a little bit sad, because, you know, these chimpanzees, you know, are now infected with these aliens. But there's a scene where they're observing the chimpanzees through a observation glass, and they see that two of the chimpanzees that have been infected are trying to get a third, and pull this third chimpanzee towards them and sit down so that they can attach one of their offspring to him. Now, I've got to give a lot of credit to the animal trainers in this movie, because these chimpanzees, honestly, you'd swear that they were terrified, you know. I'm sure that they were treated all well and lovely and good and everything like that, but it was just the way it was done. And then what makes it even more creepy is that there's a computer in the room with these chimpanzees, and one of them begins typing, and he types, hello John, do you miss me? And, you know, seeing a chimpanzee do that, unless, you know, it's Planet of the Apes, that's really terrifying. So that they realise that these creatures can use whatever skills that their hosts possess to communicate. And so that is one of the scenes to really watch out for, Dark Realmers. It's very, very good. As I said, 10 points to the animal trainers who did this, because it is really, really believable. And I just found myself going, oh, partly because it was so creepy, but partly because you feel so sorry for these chimpanzees. Now, as you know, Dark Realmers, I never spoil anything by giving away endings and plots and things like that. So I'm not going to spoil this for you. But before the movie ends, there's the scene where they do the calculations and work out how long it'll take before these whole colony of aliens will basically take over the whole Earth, which is scary in itself. But there's also scenes where a few more people get infected, and it comes at a time when you're not really expecting it. So that's a nice bonus. Now, unfortunately, this movie didn't do well at the box office, and it was really panned by critics, which is a shame because it does have some great elements. It's not perfect by any means. There's better examples of sort of alien takeover type movies around, but I give points to the director and the screenwriters for trying to take a classic novel and give it a modern day twist, but still keep that creepy element. And there is some great horror in this, okay? For my fan Amber, I don't know whether this will be within your tolerance level, Amber. Let's just say that. But anyway, Dark Realmers, this movie is actually available on YouTube, which is where I found it. Now, of course, it's also available on DVD, and I'm sure it's available on a streaming service in whatever part of the world you live. So check it out. And also, if you just like to see how it diverges from Robert A Hienlen's book, give the book a read too, because that's one of the things I love, is finding out how different a movie turns out to be from a book. Now, sometimes you can be, as a reader, really disappointed. And other times you can put your critical goggles aside and you can basically see what they've tried to do. Okay, Dark Realmers, well, that's it for this episode of the Dark Realm Diaries. I hope you like the review we've done for you today. Remember, if you like movie reviews, book reviews, all those sort of things from the world of horror, don't forget to subscribe to us. Leave a comment below. Perhaps there's a movie you'd like me to review for you, something that you remember very fondly, or maybe something that you remember with a little bit of fear. Okay, no worries. I'll do my best because I always reply to your comments. So that's it for this episode of the Dark Realm Diaries. And as I always say to you, Dark Realmers, thank you very much for watching me. I do appreciate it. And remember what I always say, stay in the light.